All right, you are watching Foxborough Rush, and we talked about, well, trying to help you with your fantasy football teams the best that we can because players are flying up the draft boards. If you see this tweet right here by PFF_fantasy, I know a guy that, I would continue to try to make a case for to be a part of any fantasy team. And if you take a closer look here, you got Pacheco in the mix. You got, a New England Patriot by the name of TreVeyon Henderson. Tyler Warren, not too surprised here. And then Judkins, the 1-2 punch when it came to running backs one upon a time. You did?
I did, yeah. We were talking about tight ends the other day, and I said Tyler Warren. I think he is going to rack up some points. For all those who draft him, I would not be surprised. I think he's a playmaker. In no way surprised. I think it's completely expected at this point. And there's a reason that, similar to TreVeyon, right? Like there's a reason that the two of them are depicted on that graphic from PFF that we just saw as players who are flying up draft boards. It's not a secret for much longer.
In no way. I think some game plans are really going to show that the hype is not just hype and the noise is going to get louder. Upon our new friendship, Jade, tight end is my favorite position. When I first became a football gal, it was linebacker. Nobody could tell me anything. I was in love with the contact. But then I was like, wait a minute. You have this player that has to do it all, like hand in the dirt, he has to block, then he has to go out for passes, and I was done for once I realized how versatile and how fantastic tight ends are. So I will take your advice on Warren and second that. Now, of course, the difficulty, or maybe the fun, is the first round selections. What's the method here to properly selecting in the first round? Is it upside or is it the consistency of a player? Do you play it safe? Because I'm not good at playing it safe. I'm going to be honest.
Oh, so give me what do you usually do? If you're not good at playing it safe, then what do you go for with your first pick?
I start with the whole, I really like this player. I guess I would be an upside gal, or I give a lot of love to the underdog. So it's the expectation of what I think can play out in my head versus also what reporters and stuff are saying. So I'm not always jumping for the flashy name because yes, you know what to expect out of them, but I like the element of surprise, I guess. That's my method.
Yeah. Fair enough. Look, I think it depends a little bit too on where you fall, in draft order and in terms of what you can actually go for. I love Saquon. I know that he obviously has had a lot of carries and took a pounding last season, but I think, this Eagles offense is in so many ways going to continue to run through him. So I think you can't go wrong, with Saquon this season, up high on your draft board. Obviously, we know the Justin Jefferson, right? What is that going to look like? I think it's going to look like a lot of points. I know he's dealing with, there's been a bit of a hamstring injury during camp, but from everything that we've kind of heard, it's something that he's managed and will continue to be a non-issue. Hopefully, we know those soft tissue injuries can obviously get a little complicated at times, particularly in players where they become a repeat thing. But I still think that Justin Jefferson is going to be out there. And I think we're going to hear, JJ to JJ, if you will. I think that's going to happen. And then the quarterbacks, do you draft a quarterback early? Do you want a Lamar? Do you want a Josh Allen? How do you approach that one? Or do you sort of sit back and go, I think Bo Nix is going to be really good this year again and build upon what he did last year. Right?
Mm-hmm. That's my method right there. I would go for a Bo Nix.
You can take a little bit later and still get a lot of points.
Exactly. I know it's hands down. You want to get the consistent quarterback that continues to post these 3,000+ passing yard seasons. But then I'm thinking to myself, I feel confident in Bo Nix taking the next step. So stuff like that is where I would kind of lean on it. And like you said, I grab him a little bit lower, maybe solidify a guy in a different realm outside of quarterback. So I like kind of fishing for the underdog when it comes to quarterback, because I feel like knowing the system or what the team is going to do, you can bank on how many passing yards they're going to get. You can bank on, how rhythmic they are with the passing touchdowns and stuff. So outside of that, I'm like, okay, I'm okay with this. Love that you mentioned Bo Nix. When you mentioned Barkley, I think he likes the workload, and I think that he's totally okay with it. I mean, he's been waiting to break out and find success on the other end of all of his hard work since leaving the Giants, so he's not going to be okay with slowing down anytime soon. And they use him at different moments to really kind of load up the yardage, I would say. Even if they use him more on the back end of the season, we saw how that ended up playing out in his first season with the Eagles. So I would still be all in for him. My sleeper when it comes to the running back room, though, is going to be Bucky Irving. And I make sure that I let everyone know it's not biased, but I feel like he just had such a rapport in the Bucs offense last year, and I feel like they're going to build off of that. I guess I just found my theme. A guy who can build off of the previous year. I'm here for it. I said it twice
hey,
now,
that's a good thing to be there for, right? No, but
right.
Bo Nix is one of those guys, and like Albert Breer wrote a piece when he went out to training camp and was talking with Sean Payton, and Sean is so high on this kid as his quarterback, and it was a great piece. If you haven't read it, go check it out on the MMQB with Bert Breer. But my point is that I think when you have a coach, of the ilk of Sean Payton, who is really, he really bought into him, when they drafted him. And obviously I think they had a great start last year together, and I think they'll continue to build upon it. And he's there on boards. I think he's like top 15. It's not a secret, right? But I know one of my kids had Bo Nix last year, and it was great. Like, he was very consistent, but it wasn't, he didn't have to give up a super high pick in his draft to get him. He had Saquon too, so that kind of helped.
I love how you snuck that in there. He also had the other pillar that we were just talking about. Totally good to go. Actually, funny enough, Bo Nix right now on some of the fantasy projections, I'm seeing him at 8. So I think that that's a quality one.
There you go. So he's moved
right
up.
behind Baker Mayfield. Yeah, he's another guy on the climb to keep an eye on. So I guess this also tells you to perfectly time your fantasy parties and your drafts, because you want to make sure that before the draft stock gets higher and higher, getting closer to the cutoff, you're getting these guys at equality. That's what I'm seeing. Justin Herbert's also one of my favorites. I know that his passing yards are probably going to die down just a little bit coming into Harbaugh's system, who has a lot more of a balanced attack. But I wouldn't steer clear of the top 5 guys. And the Jaden Daniels would really intrigue me for this upcoming season, because everyone's always trying to figure out, again, can they replicate or supersede what they did the previous year? Well, now that he knows he's keeping Scary Terry, I feel like everything should be fine over that way. So that's a guy climbed into the 3rd spot for fantasy football to make sure when it comes to top 10 quarterbacks, you want to have him on your list. You think Joe Burrow's going to be Joe Burrow all over again this year?
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to have all the gaudy numbers that he had last season. They were just all off the charts, but I don't see them sliding dramatically. Just not with the weapons that he has. Burrow's still going to go out there and he's still going to do Burrow type things. The bigger question for them is avoid their defense in a draft, but because we don't know what their defense is going to be, right?
No idea.
That is sort of the big question. So wait, what other tight ends do you like, right? Because obviously Laporta. I think Trey McBride out there with the Cardinals.
Love Laporta. Laporta's one of my favorites. That's for sure. Yeah. I like Laporta. Cade Otton, I think, is going to have a bigger role in Tampa Bay. Again, not to always take it back to Tampa, but slow development in systems that need a tight end, especially to cover middle ground. I feel like you can get some points out of him. But